Well, just before the break, we showed you how wide the gap can be across Canada between the racial makeup of police forces and that in the communities they serve. To explore how significant that may be, I'm joined by two people with a lot of experience in the area. Joining us, Ranjit Katkar. She's founder of the Peel Coalition Against Racialized Discrimination, and Mark Rainford, who left the Toronto Police Service after 15 years on the force. In fact, just left a few days ago. To you both, thanks for being here tonight. Mark, I want to start with you. You're fresh off, you're serving for the police force here. I think intuitively anyone would say, of course, having a diverse police force is a good thing to help, build relations in a community. But you're not so convinced. You're not convinced this is the solution. Why not?
I don't think it's the complete solution. There's no guarantee that when you have officers of the same cultural background, there's no guarantee that they are even culturally aware, right? So, for instance, for me, being a mixed race person, I identify with my Caribbean roots, Jamaican. Mm-hmm. When I'm in the community and I'm policing people of Jamaican descent, the questions still are, you're stopping me because I am black.
So you're saying that some people don't see beyond the badge. All they see is the badge, they see the uniform, they may not see the skin color.
I think before they see that, they see their own lived experience, right? Mm-hmm. So if somebody has a positive lived experience with police, that is what they'll see first. Mm. If they have a negative one, that is what they'll see.
Ranjit, right? Why do you think it's important to have this diverse police force? Or what do you think is the danger of not having it in communities?
I think it's critical to have the police force that reflects the community for many reasons. And I think one of the reasons is that the community has to be able to see themselves in the police force. And the police force have to be able to reinforce the cultural values, the religious values, the understanding of the community. That's why it's critical that the police officers live in the community, but also understand the community that they live in. So I think it's critical for young people, especially, having come from education, 35 years and retired, I've worked with youth all my life. And what I see the youngsters doing is coming back and saying, look, this is how we're treated. And if there were more people that looked like them, where they felt comfortable, that they could really link with and associate with, their reaction would be very different because they'd be able to connect with them straight away.
I think it's interesting, though, because I saw one study that was indicating that white police officers, this was an American study, white police officers arrest more suspects, but black police officers arrest more black suspects. Do you think that there can be almost a reverse bias in case where black officers feel they have to police harder on people of their own skin color?
I wouldn't say that officers feel they have to police harder. I think that where some of the challenge comes in is that when people see somebody that looks like them, they expect the treatment to immediately be better because of that similarity. But the nature of policing is still to remain unbiased in the delivery of that service. So regardless of the race of an individual and the race of the officer, the investigation has to be true. And the danger of the expectation that somebody of your culture policing you is inherently better, it raises a level of optimism that sometimes that optimism is going to be limited by the duties of the officer. Are they doing the right thing?
And let me pick up on that, because Detroit Police Department is dominated by African-American police officers. And yet in Wayne County, which is in the Detroit area, only 18% of the black people in that community think the police are doing a good job. So Ranjit, I wonder if it does, and you'd think would intuitively create more trust and a bigger bond, as you're pointing out.
Right.
But this is one example where that just doesn't seem to make a difference, that people still see a police officer, full stop.
Well, and I agree with you. Ideally, it would be really great if everybody did just see a police officer for who they see. But the reality is, because they're treated differently, we feel anyways in Peel that the youngsters are treated differently if they're black and if they're brown, and our statistics support that. So if we know that 3 times as many black youngsters are being stopped for street checks, and 2 times as many brown students or youth are being stopped for street checks, then yeah, we begin to question why they're doing that. And if we don't have any empirical evidence that can align the number of street checks or street checks to criminal arrests, then yes, we're going to question why we're even having the race data and why we're even collecting the race data if we're doing nothing with it. So I think it is critical that we begin to work within the system to make the change that's necessary, so eventually we only see a police officer for a police officer and not a black or brown or white police officer.
But as you pointed those numbers, if you have, and this is what I wonder for you, Mark, because as a former police officer, what is stronger at the end of the day? Is it the police culture or is it the individual's culture?
That is going to be very independent or determined by each officer. Right. So in my case, what I identify with is neither the police culture or my own. It's a collective of who it is I'm serving. What are their needs? At the end of the day, my goal as a police officer was community safety. That doesn't just include solving crime. That includes mutual respect between the people I serve and myself, right? So me attaching to a community that is like me, it neither helps or hurts. In my opinion, it does neither. What actually helps is how I humanize the people I used to police, right? And the danger that I see when we decide to put culturally similar officers in those communities is we start to lose the cultural knowledge, the exchange between people of different backgrounds. What happens now when police officers are dispersed amongst the community, not by race, not by gender, not by any of these factors, when people decide to humanize one another, they learn a lot.
I gave you the first, I'll give you the last. Go ahead, Ranjit.
So I think if the police culture is created, it's created by the officers within that police force. And if those police officers were diverse, and if the transparency was there, if the trust was there, if the policies and procedures and application of all of those procedures were created by people that are diverse, there would be change that would be meaningful and would reflect the needs of the community, which is to trust the police force and begin action that would really reflect what all of us are asking for.
Okay, we'll leave it on this notion of trust in an attempt to build that trust. Ranjit, Mark, thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you. Thank you, Ranjit.
Thank you.